Welcome to Berlin, Germany, everyone, for the LEC Summer Finals. We had 11 weeks packed with action, and they've let us all here. And in the end, only Fnatic and G2 Esports remain. It is a tale we have heard a few times before, Yamato and Ender, but we're not sad about it.
No, we're not sad. I mean, last week we had 5 games of G2 versus Fnatic. Yesterday we had 5 games of G2 versus Rogue. Today, give me 5 more, and I couldn't be happier.
Yes, please. It might be, the same, name of the show, but it's a new season, and every time it's different.
The content is completely different, and you said it though, yesterday we almost got one of the biggest upsets in LEC history. Rogue pushed the reigning champions to 5 games. Oh, but in the end it wasn't enough. What a heartbreaker for them.
Oh, it was such a hard-fought series from both sides.
Did you just say what I think you said?
No, ignore it. That's the one mulligan we get today because it was so close between the two teams. Of course, last time these two teams played as well, G2 versus Fnatic, was a really intense series. But G2 Rogue yesterday, the bot lane stepped up from Rogue and really delivered.
Yeah, the bot lane, and as well, I feel like, EU mids, the whole conversation of EU mids has been forgotten, but Larsen showed up big time. He delivered against Caps and competed against him, and in some games played way better than him.
It was so sad for Rogue, we couldn't even show you the correct replay anymore. Instead, we show you Fnatic. They will, of course, be playing later today. But regardless of that slip-up, I do want to take a moment to talk about Rogue and their phenomenal performance yesterday, as well as for themselves. They recontextualize Rogue and what they will look like going into Worlds.
Yeah, I just have to say, the evolution of Rogue over the course of the year from the team that played the slow, conservative style very much in spring around some pretty strong individual pieces, but they weren't super standout. Summer, it was different. Larsen started having huge standout performance. The bot lane started solidifying themselves as one of the strongest in the LEC, and I feel like overall the teamwork just continued to get stronger, and we can be proud of them sending them to Worlds.
And also just in the context of how they had, the approach to the game against G2, they weren't really slowing down. They were trying to fight. They were taking fights that were crazy. But this is the right mindset to have as you're practicing and heading into the World Championship, where you might face a top esports or a Damon or something else. You need to be explosive because slow and steady is, turtles don't belong at Worlds.
Yeah, they've got different styles they can bring out now. They've got different picks and a lot of talent on this roster. I'm excited.
Yeah, they do. And in the context of Worlds, I mean, I'm happy you've seen a couple of different things. Because you say, you have to be faster, but you also have to be ready for absolutely everything, which one of the best, of course. So, Fnatic and G2 will be our final, and it is our biggest rivalry. They have 14 titles combined, and the title count is currently tied at 7. Whoever wins today is the most winning team in LEC history. And I just want to emphasize once again how enormous this is. The fact that these two organizations stay at the top, and they stay in rivalry, because all across the globe, our famous rivalries have fizzled out because you can't stay at the top for that long very easily, but these orgs keep doing it.
Our last 3 finals have been Fnatic versus G2. They've been so insane games, and you know that if you play in Europe, you have to wear a Fnatic or a G2 jersey if you want to be considered among the best and if you want to have a shot at winning the title.
I think also they should be so happy that the other exists, because I think both of them make each other so much better. Having that competition is so important because they are forced to adapt every single season. We've seen so many different alterations of Fnatic, so many different alterations of G2. We don't know what's coming in the future, but it's going to be good.
Exactly, and we hope it's going to be a banging best of 5. And for a walk down memory lane, let's head over to Oldie Quickshot.
Thank you so much, and I absolutely love what Yamatocannon just said, because I am going to very briefly explain the history and rivalry of the two most dominant organizations within Europe. It is, of course, Fnatic and G2. Regional dominance is the very core of Fnatic and G2's identity, and these two teams embody the very heart and soul of European League of Legends. Fnatic set the bar for European excellence. They won the very first World Championship. They dominated Europe. They won 5 out of 6 of the first seasons from 2013 to 2015. And they were unchallenged within Europe until 2016. A schism opened up in 2016. G2 Esports qualified for the then EU LCS after multiple failed attempts. And at the same time, the dominant Fnatic roster split. Players went to other teams and other orgs, and it was palpable that the Fnatic era may just be over. But no one could have predicted the change that G2 would bring. For 2 years, G2 dominated, winning 4 titles back-to-back for the very first time. G2 were unstoppable, and despite close games during the regular season, they were a step above Fnatic and many more above the rest of EU. And just like Yamato was saying, for Fnatic, they had multiple failed attempts at changes. They tried to find a recipe for success with the intention of conquering Europe again. But despite all of the roster changes, Fnatic always kept the face of the franchise reckless. And at the beginning of 2018, they found Broxah, Bwipo, Caps. They entered the season, and in the preseason, the hype built them up to be a G2 killer. And as if prophecy, they delivered. They won back-to-back titles. They advanced to the World Championship Finals for the first time since Season 1. And they made a statement that Fnatic was back. And watching the success of Fnatic in 2018, G2 had been defeated. They needed to adapt. They needed to find a way back to the top. Well, if you can't beat them, buy them. The biggest roster move in EU at the time was adding Caps to G2. Perkz swapped to bot, and while people thought that this could work, there was some hesitation. How good would Perkz be? Well, the answer was very simple. Fantastic. They set the fastest ever 3-0 in the spring split final. They went on to win the MSI title. They went on to win summer, and they also made a world final in 2019. This is a story of two successful teams that at different times have been exceptionally dominant, not truly trading blow for blow. Now, Fnatic won in the past, G2 wins now, and that was until summer of 2019. Like the analyst just said, 3 back-to-back finals of Fnatic versus G2. We got our first true taste of the rivalry. G2 and Fnatic going blow for blow, being in top form. 2 5-game series last year ultimately resulted in a G2 win, but today, the expectations are different. Fnatic bested G2 last weekend, and today, the greatest rivalry in League of Legends continues. A key figure in this rivalry is Caps, the best mid lane in Europe, 5-time back-to-back LEC champion, and he's your summer MVP.
Back to going forward.
How crazy is he gonna be?
He can take down Broxah and Sumi massive. No! Step right up.
Hello? Hello?
Oh, into the north! Wow! From downtown!
Here you go!
Kami can now step forward and get aggressive here. Caps. Be careful, Caps. You have to be respected, though. That's disgusting. No wonder they want to pick this champion, but now it's Febiven on the backside. Where's the Devour cooldown? It's not available, which means Caps going to save it for now. Dot wants to re-engage, but he's not going to get the chance. Febiven flashes in. Caps is still alive. The Boulder goes. They know their only job is to peel for Caps, and as a result, Caps just gets to kill every single member. That's the double.
Such power. We get to ask the question, who's the scariest monster, Trevor? Fiddlesticks or Cho'Gath? Oh! The Caps is sitting here on the flank. Crouch on base, Jax!
He's dead. Goodbye. Unleashed power comes out.
Secure. Tempered Fate comes out. That hits
gonna
Good burst right now. Caps has to do it. Oh! Tempered Fate, the combo! G2, that was beautiful!
Are you kidding me?
Caps, I want you to look in the bottom drawer behind the Red Bull fridge, please. Bottom drawer.
Bottom drawer?
Yeah.
All right.
So you are the 2020 Summer LEC MVP, Caps. The title stays at G2, but it's back in your hand this time. So do you think it reflects the performance you had this summer?
I mean, I'm really happy to win it. Obviously, Jankos won the last few times, so it feels good that to take it back away from him. And it obviously wasn't the easiest split, so I'm really happy that get some confidence before the final, and hopefully that will help us take the throne.
Yeah, I hope you enjoy bragging about it a bit before the series when you come out of the interview. But I mean, you were the most consistent player in the LEC, in G2, even though your team was, I mean, going through a slump this summer. So I want to know, how did you manage to maintain your performance even though your teammates couldn't here?
I mean, I think we all came into like the summer split with like expectations of just like the regular season is regular season. We've been here a lot of times, so we kind of just took it slow, and we just wanted to focus mainly on playoffs. But at the same time, we also had to make playoffs, right? So we all just put in the effort, especially when we started losing a lot, and we knew we had to make the playoffs at least at like a decent seed. So I think it just comes from like a slow start, which was kind of expected, and then turning it around.
Yeah, I wanted to say, I mean, you had to thrive and find new ways for G2 to be successful regardless of everything that was happening. So did it help you develop as a player?
I mean, of course, you always improve every split. I feel like, if anything, I think I learned a lot from last split. Just playing AD carry was definitely like a different experience, and I feel like I've taken a lot of that into the mid lane role. At least a lot of the things that I learned about, like, both me as a player, but also about communication. I think I've improved a lot on that. And I feel like that's maybe the biggest difference in this summer split. But more than anything, I think it just comes from like adaptation, right? Like I play a lot of different splits, and it's not like my team plays the same way. It's not like I play the same way. We're always adapting and trying to overcome like who we're playing against, but also how we play the best. So you're learning something every day. You're learning something every split, and that's kind of what you need to if you want to stay on top.
Exactly, and I mean, looking ahead in the future, I guess that you still have something on your bucket list, looking ahead at Worlds here, but I want to know, how do you get there? What do you need to finally reach this World Championship title you want?
It's a good question. We definitely have to beat the LPL team in the final. Hopefully we can make it back to the final of Worlds, right? That's not a given at all. Hopefully we can win today against Fnatic as well. But we just... Yeah, I mean, I specifically as well, I feel like I've always struggled a lot against LPL teams. I've never really had the best performances against them. But the thing is that you always learn when you play against them, and you always get something away from it. So I hope that we have learned enough about them, and we've learned enough about the teams that this World's Championship, we will just come in prepared. We will come in with the knowledge of like previous losses, and we can take them down.
Yes, not 3 times in a row for you, hopefully. Is there anything you want to say to the people who voted for you, actually, that reflects on the performance you had this split and this year overall, Caps?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really honored for everyone voting me, or for everyone who did. And I'm just happy to get it back, honestly. Like, seeing Jankos win the last 2 splits was kind of like... I mean, it's like, I felt good for him, right? But I also was like kind of jealous, so it feels good to have like the trophy again. Hopefully I can show up today. It's obviously like a really important series, and we did lose against Fnatic last week. So I just hope that we can have some good League of Legends. It doesn't have to go 5 games. Well, I mean, I'm sure people hope that it goes 5 games like the last 2 series we had. But yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Well, well-deserved trophy, Caps, and thank you very much for the interview. I wish you the best of luck today against Fnatic.
Thank you.
And back to the Sjokz.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it was so happy to kind of see his face, because we could see the preview of like the reaction to the video and everything, which, by the way, that video was insane.
Oof. It was so sick.
That was so sick.
And also, we didn't tell Caps when we said we're interviewing him, we didn't tell him he won MVP. He found out when he watched that video.
Yeah, but I kind of think, I don't know, if you're Caps, you're probably like, oh, my MVP. I mean, I did carry my team entire summer. I kind of deserve it, no, Yamato?
He definitely does. I think in this mindset that G2's been in, that they're ramping up for playoffs and the World Championship. I've been watching Caps stream from over in Korea, and always to see him smiling, no matter how much his teammates are ending, and him just enjoying the game at all costs, I think speaks to why his form always remains so insane.
I think the most impressive thing about Caps for me in this summer is that he's won MVP before, right? He's been on teams that are so good around him. 2019 G2 obviously had like so many great players around him, and he was always performing. But this split, it really was him on a team that was a little bit unsure of themselves, that was trying to find their footing, that were, again, as he said, maybe taking it a little bit easy in the regular season, focusing on playoffs, but he was taking the regular season seriously. He was showing up every single game, and that was just crazy to watch.
It's almost like he takes that in stride, too, that he thinks, all right, well, you need me to step up even more? Challenge accepted, I'll do whatever. And then we're going to talk about it later, Yamato, but you also never know where he's going to go. Is the Kog'Maw going to come out? Is the Vayne going to come out? Is he redefined the meta in his head, and are we going to see it in this best of 5? He's just so unpredictable.
Yeah, just like the story of how they thought of the Kog'Maw pick for the finals against Fnatic, where they 3-0'd them in spring. That was like, yeah, I had a dream. Let's pick Kog'Maw Lulu. That's probably good. And his teammates are like, oh, it's Caps.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, let him do it. And he also talked about like what he learned when he played bot lane. I think you see so much of that, the communication he talked about, but also understanding sideways more. He's always roaming bot lane to pick up kills down there too, and he definitely has leveled up as a player.
He has, and he's going to continue to level up. He was, of course, also on the All-Pro list when we released that one, but since that regular season, new players have stepped up, and different players have stepped up during the playoffs. So we wanted to put together a playoffs all-star team. First up, Selfmade is on it, and Wonder is on it, which is going to make a lot of people happy.
Yeah, I mean, Wonder had a great game yesterday. I do want to single out Selfmade, though, because he's been playing this style of farming jungler, carry jungler for so long, the very selfish, self-made style, and now in playoffs, he's found his form, and all the other junglers are following him. He is the innovator of Europe to go the Evelynn route, to play these scaling picks, and the way he plays, it's all about him. It's about him carrying Fnatic.
I think that's the key thing, right? I feel like Fnatic also adjusted so well to his style, and they are willing to trust him, and I think it's the right move to do. I think 10.16 came as a blessing with the Hecarim buffs and the Evelynn buffs, and these were champions that he always had in his pocket, and now they are very, very strong.
I mean, it's also interesting in the context of a team like Fnatic. You know, Reckless is also on this list. You know, you have some very experienced players who've been around for a very long time to also accept someone to say, you know what, no, I am the carry now, look at me, and letting him do that. And I think maybe that's why it took a while, but now that Selfmade has the tools to shine, it is looking fantastic for Fnatic.
Yeah, I do feel like a lot of it, too, is about Fnatic adapting to this playstyle as a whole, because they've been used to junglers that help them out all the time, get them out of tough situations, but Selfmade, it's all about min-maxing, it's all about that efficiency, and if you mess up your lane, he's going to let you die because he wants to get ahead.
Exactly. Let's talk about Wonder, too. He flies under the radar so often, and the fans are always up in arms if he's not on the list for player of the game in the series, and I agree with them, but it's so hard to kind of pinpoint what he does so well, Yamato. Can you do it for us?
I love Wonder so much. I had the blessing and the honor of working with him in his rookie season. I remember after the first split, the whole community said, kick Wonder, kick Wonder, kick Wonder. And boy, they didn't see what I see on Scrim and so forth. This man always has a very keen eye for the game in the context of the current meta. Everyone's playing the GP and the Ornn and the Sion. He can do that easily, but he can also skirt on the outside of that. In a series like a best of 5, he can come with the Kled, with the Kali, whatever champion that can break that. I think Wonder is for sure the best top laner in Europe.
Yeah, no matter what style he's playing, he's always coming out inside the laning phase, always winning that 1v1. His impact in team fights is also going to be huge, and that's going to be a big point for G2 today, I'm sure. That
it will be indeed. He also won the Kia Player of the Series yesterday. If you heard otherwise, you've been lied to. Finally, before we move on, I do want to talk about Kaiser specifically. He is, of course, not around anymore in terms of the teams that are remaining in playoffs or even in the finals weekend, but he just impressed everyone, even in the games that Mad ended up losing.
You know, when Mad Lions took the form of Sad Lions, Kaiser was still standing tall, true to his name. Kaiser, is it the German word for emperor? I believe, something like that, yeah. And he was doing good. He's doing bits. He was landing Nautilus hooks. He was finding engages when they're super so far behind. And I think, in general, Kaiser has had a fantastic year. Even though Mad Lions lost 2 best-of-5 series, I think he was the better support in both of those.
Yeah, an incredibly impressive rookie. This guy has nowhere to go but up moving forward.
Yep, Reckless we're going to talk about plenty as we continue this Ready Check. But the next generations of EU superstars, they are currently facing off at EU Masters. Here's a little sneak peek.
Hi guys, I'm Penguin, joined by Ox, and we're shoutcasters for European Masters. This is the tournament that puts the spotlight on the next EU superstars with teams from all across the continent.
LEC players like Selfmade, Nemesis, Crownshot, Malitza all got their breakthrough on this stage.
And you can watch the conclusion with us of the group stage live from the LEC studio from September 9th to 12th on twitch.tv/EU Masters. For the full schedule, visit watch.lolesports.com.
We'll see you on the Rift.
See you on the Rift, indeed. Always exciting to see who's going to emerge from EU Masters and which region also is going to score the points over there, because that's a bragging competition as well.
Yeah, always fun. You know, it's been a while. You know, France always came in with some hype. Now they've got some titles under their belt, so maybe they'll do well again this year. We'll find out.
We'll see, indeed. And on to another kind of important tournament, Worlds 2020. That will feature the best teams from across the globe, and hopefully the LEC will reign supreme. I mean, I hope. But I've been disappointed, okay, 2 years in a row. And looking at the global landscape at the LCK and the LPL, there are some tough teams to face for our European teams. Yamato, you as our LCK resident, who should we look out for?
I'm scarred by Damwon.
You're scarred by Damwon?
Screaming against Damwon it's like inevitable what's going on in the games. They make you question everything. They gave me the vibes of, you know, 2019 G2 when they came in and they were just dominating. This is the vibes I'm getting from Damwon. And I feel like at the same time in the LCK, they haven't been forced to peel off any layers because they are just sweeping through all the competition so easily. And they have no weaknesses. They are so damn good. And it's so hard to prepare against them because the conclusion is you just got to play better. And that's tough to do.
Seems like it. They were also heralded as the Scrim Gods for so long, but it looks like all of that is now finally materializing. You know, it could be also a product of kind of the environment everyone is playing in, but you can't take anything away from how dominating these players are and how in every single micro move they make, they seem to have everything figured out.
It's also going to be such an interesting world as well because everyone's been so isolated this year, obviously with the global situation, but not having an MSI, it's really hard to have a read on the different skill strength, the strengths of these different regions.
Always. Of course, I think the consensus is that the LCK will rise above once again. They had 2 bad years, but I felt similarly last year. This does seem that they have taken an extra step forward. Who didn't even need to take step forward are the LPL. They've been on top for a few years now. And again, they're sending some new teams. Top Esports looks so scary. What can we expect?
Yeah, so I got a chance to catch up with Frosk, our resident LPL expert here at the LEC. And Top, you have to have heard of him. You got to be scared. Players like Knight, all this, definitely need to have them on your radar. She basically said this team is like a more consistent Invictus Gaming. And I don't know if any of you remember Invictus Gaming, but they were pretty damn good. So while these players might not have necessarily the same highs all the time, you always know they're going to show up on the Rift, and that makes them a serious threat at Worlds.
It's also always the same story of who wins the World Championship is always the teams that have the strongest 2v2. And right now, if I call a team having the strongest 2v2 in the world, it is Top Esports.
It's also always so scary from the LPL because we think, oh, it's again another team that wins the title. But the fact that it is so competitive keeps all of the players, the new players and the old alike, on their toes. And that's why we always see such a strong performance from the LPL. JDG is also a team we should talk about. I don't know too much about them. Why are they so scary?
Look, I'm gonna quote Frost directly on this one. She said, JDG are everything Origin wish they could be. They play a different style compared to the rest of the LPL. Maybe a little bit more conservative. They're also at Worlds. I'm sure Origin would love to be there, but this team is definitely going to be the one you have to keep your eyes on as a very different look for the LPL, who we always say the Chinese aggression, it's not necessarily that with them.
I feel like if I would define JDG, I would say it's the team that is almost made for this meta. They play very structured around dragons. They've played the farming style jungle where everyone plays for Kanavi for as long as forever, and now all these new junglers are coming in. His precision when it comes to the Graves and Nidalee is so important because you make one mistake, you fall behind with the Lilia, with the Graves, with the Nidalee, all of a sudden disaster, but Kanavi almost always delivers.
He does. Ooh, it's in the air.
Yeah, I'm like, you better be looking out for some junglers from LPL, LCK coming into this tournament because we've gotten introduced to a lot of the scaling picks. We still haven't really seen much of the Nidalee, and the Nidalee is a champion that LPL, LCK junglers will dominate on.
Lilia too.
Lilia too? Dude, you're making me even more scared. I was already scared going into Worlds for Europe, but I guess we'll see. Here in the LEC, though, we are ready for our own bout, the final battle, as Fnatic and G2 face off in an epic rematch. Let's get into it then. EU's greatest rivalry, two teams that have always been at the top. And just look at this collage here and just the great moments across the teams and the history that they embody.
Look, when these teams show up, you always know they're going to perform. They have their ups and their downs, regular season, forget all that. In the clutch moments, in the playoffs, they are always going to show up when it matters.
No, as a person that has competed in Europe for so long, as a player, as a coach, these players were always the ones to beat, the ones to chase. It's been extremely frustrating. I remember when I was a player back in Season 2, Season 1. I remember back in the days when you played like online and tournaments were kind of iffy. I remember the specific game where Reckless Jace ult attack just stopped working. We had to remake it. We were 3K gold behind. And we were very upset, and we ended up losing the series. And you know, we just wanted to beat Fnatic. And it's always been the same thing. You want to beat Fnatic, you want to beat G2. These are the teams you want to chase and also sometimes also join as a player.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you hit on something really cool there. The fact that we thought also that we would see a changing of the guard, you know. We've said it a couple of years now, the young players, because we have such good teams of rookies even in the LEC and in EULC as previous. But it never seems to be enough. And that's not because Fnatic and G2 never change. It is because they constantly change and evolve.
Yeah, they constantly challenge each other to become better. And when it comes to series like this, it's less about playing the meta, finding the perfect picks. It's about playing the other team. You know them so well. You know their tendencies. It's like, you know when the enemy jungler is going to try to gank you because you played against Jankos a million different times. And that's what makes it so exciting.
Yeah, for sure. I think they should be so happy they have each other. Because we've seen in other regions where there's like one team, for example, Team Liquid was so dominant for so long, and they were the same team forever. And then eventually Cloud9 came with something new, and Cloud9 couldn't even last that long either. It's so hard to stay on top for so long. We should really, really respect that attribute that both of these two organizations have.
Exactly. And you know, in recent times, we've been a bit more disappointed by the rivalry, right? I think when you look to this year specifically, and the fact that in that final in spring, it was such a clean 3-0 for G2. The fact that Fnatic hadn't been able to beat G2 for so long, it was trying, you know, it was getting a bit iffy there.
Last finals disappointed us, but let's zoom back a little bit further because you remember last summer we were in this exact same position. We had G2 and Fnatic face off in a best-of-5 in the round 2 of playoffs. It went all 5 games. G2 won. Then in finals, they matched up again and they went all 5 games. And I don't see any reason why they can't do that again.
And last week.
Yeah. And also that spring, that year, Fnatic wasn't even in finals. You know, OG was in finals, and then they did the classic OG thing, summer, blah, blah, blah.
When we gear up for Worlds, when we get into summer playoffs, it's always going to be good.
Yeah, I was trying to bring up the fact that, you know, we have some replays of last week's games, Yamato, when Fnatic finally slayed their demons. That's okay. You know, you've been away for a while. Finally beat G2 in a best-of-5, and this is what Ender was alluding to. It was so exciting when they got to play 2 best-of-5s back-to-back. It might be the same today.
I think FLICKR reminded us of something so beautiful the other day where, you know, Reckless always had these teams where there's been like these blocks against them. Last year was RNG at the World Championship. Finally, he beat Uzi. This time around, it was beating G2. This has been the thing that he's been chasing for so long. And usually when that kind of obstacle is jumped for Reckless, he kind of unleashes, it becomes even better somehow.
Yeah, he kind of opens up and unlocks this new level of skill, which is crazy for a player that's played for so long, so many years, and been on top for so long.
And look, for Reckless, I think it's even a little bit more than just beating G2. It's about beating Caps, because Caps, you know, Quickshot was saying earlier, won the last 5 European titles in a row. He won a couple of those with Fnatic. All of a sudden, jump ship, goes over to G2. So Reckless definitely wants to put Caps down because he sort of brought that kid up, and now he's going on and winning everything without him.
Brought that kid up. That is hilarious. Yeah, we'll see what happens today. Yamato, does it feel to you like we would have a close best-of-5 again after what you saw last week? Is it in the water?
I feel like there's so much to get into. That's a very, very wide question, but I feel, you know, the air I'm smelling feels like 5 games.
It was like 5 games. It was last week. And in Game 5 between G2 and Fnatic, we did see a lot of key moments a couple of days ago. So Vedius, break it down for us.
I'd be more than happy to, Sjokz. Yes, last week we saw a very intense best-of-5 versus G2 and Fnatic, but I wanted to focus in on Game 5 specifically and highlight some of the moments that made this game so close and so intense. So I've got a bunch of replays for you today.
You can ignore the arrow, don't mind that. So we're going to start off with this replay from G2 and Fnatic in Game 5. Now, the first thing to note is that with G2's composition, the whole goal is to try and play through mid, start snowballing through the rest of the maps. They want to try and get Caps on this LeBlanc as ahead as quickly as possible so they can get the ball rolling and kind of slow down Fnatic's scaling. So we're kind of at a point where G2 have not been able to find a lot of early game advantages. Caps has a couple kills, but we're kind of at a turning point in the game where G2 really want to accelerate the game. So I'm going to bring up the minimap for you, and I'm going to highlight that what Nemesis did was he actually set up a bit of a freeze initially towards the bot side of the map. G2, they don't like to slow the game down, so knowing that they had the Rift Herald, they started to move up through the top side of the map, knowing that Caps had this wave prepped and ready to push towards the top lane, and they just dropped the Rift Herald as well. So G2's game plan is, okay, if Nemesis is going to sit bot, we're going to force a play top. So as things roll out, you'll start to see G2. Nemesis pushing the wave, recognizing that things are happening top lane, and they see, okay, a Gangplank has overstayed. Bwipo is out of position. We can use this as an opportunity to capitalize. So what I now want to draw your attention to is what Bwipo does and why his Gangplank is so scary and why it's so good for Fnatic. So first thing you're going to notice, he's going to get dragged back into his team. But look at this Gangplank ultimate that's coming down onto the minion wave. This clears out any potential follow-up that G2 have, even if he dies, because there's no more wave to siege onto the tower. Also note that Perkz is forced to walk through the Gangplank ultimate to get even close to him. And I also want to draw attention to the fact that there are these two barrels that are set up perfectly from Bwipo to hit onto Perkz that's going to chunk out his HP. So I'm going to roll the clip for you, and you're going to immediately see, boom, look at that HP just disappear for Perkz. Bwipo in a 1 versus 3 takes off that H bar, that HP bar, and that HP bar. There's no minions left, which means that G2, in a position where they think they found the pick, actually ends up going in disaster for them because they don't have the HP to commit to this fight. Fnatic find an opportunity to re-engage, and it's Fnatic once again in this series demonstrating their ability to stall things out, get to the later game fights, and turn things around. So in Fnatic fashion, they're able to continue this aggression, and they win a huge team fight towards the bot side of the map. And here, they're looking to push. They're looking to end the game. All of G2 is dead except for Jankos, who's about to spawn. And note, why this moment was so important was because while Fnatic have done a great job of stalling out this game, G2 do exactly the same thing off the carry performance of Jankos here. And we're going to have it in slow-mo for you. We're going to break it down and notice how he's going to drag Rekkles into the minion wave, do as much damage as he can, bring all the minions together, use his stacked up W, and then he's going to smite the cannon at the last second so that there are 0 minions for Fnatic, so they cannot push the game. Beautiful stuff from Jankos, and that results in G2 later on finding a really successful fight in the mid lane. They're going to then look to chase down Fnatic, but now the shoe is on the other foot. The responsibility falls on Fnatic once again to hold the line, defend the base, and prevent G2 from actually ending the game. And the responsibility now falls on Rekkles and Nemesis. So first thing I want to draw your attention to here is, you'll notice, and I can't show you the items, but there's a bit of an aura surrounding Nemesis. That's because he bought himself a red bot. He sold his boots, he upgraded his Hex Drinker into a Maw of Malmortius, and basically he's all about the damage. Also, look at the positioning of these two carries right now. They're separated from each other. It makes it harder for Fnatic to just pile drive onto one of them, and as the clip rolls out, you'll notice the Rekkles just keeps hitting onto the front line with that Black Cleaver, stacking it up onto Wonder, slowly shredding away that armor, so that when the culling comes through from Nemesis, look how he just melts through Wonder like he's butter. You know, it's easy for him to get that kill, and Gragas is now about to respawn, meaning Selfmade successfully, along with Fnatic, are able to hold the line. So at this point, the game is incredibly tense, very close, and it all comes down to one final team fight. But we don't get that final team fight. Instead, we get the man in the mid lane, the man that's been so heavily criticized consistently throughout the split, come up clutch. Nemesis sees Caps looking for a cheeky play up towards the top side of the map. He forces Caps back, and Caps is thinking to himself, I can get this kill. You saw what he did in the last clip. You saw that he nearly two-shot him. Nope. He's going to go in, and this is where the beauty of crits comes through. Look at this from Nemesis. Auto takes all of Caps' HP off. He was not prepared for that, but Nemesis does one better because he recognizes that while a team fight is being won by his team around the Drake, Fnatic secure the soul, but he's like, nah, I've seen G2 do this before. I'm not going to let them get away with it again. So he's going to sit in base. He's going to wait until he sees every single member of G2, and then lo and behold, the Ashe shows up into his clutches. He sees the back door, and he's there with the Gangplank ultimate to interrupt it. It was so intense. There was so much back and forth, and it was so many of these small clutch decisions that came out from both sides that resulted in one of the best fifth game that Europe has ever had. It was great to see, and it was a lot of fun. So now I'm hoping that we get to see a lot more of it today. Now I'm going to toss it to somewhere.
Thanks.
To me. You look very snazzy, and that was an amazing breakdown. Thank you so much, Vedi, and good luck on the cast. Kill it, and hopefully we get another 5 games. It's always nice to kind of look at these things in depth, because when it happens in the moment, even when you're casting it or when you're trying to analyze it, it's so fleeting.
Yeah, at some point you have to just go along with the ride in a game like that, because there is so much happening. It's only when you literally can just slow it down and see all the tiny micro interactions. Nemesis sitting in the base, changing around his items so that he wouldn't lose the Nexus right there. There was a lot that went into both sides trying their heart out to try and move into finals.
And in the end, Fnatic won, Yamato, and they are the best team in playoffs so far. What is it you think that has been so successful for them, specifically in this run?
I think the key thing is just that they figured out what the draft should be for all teams really early on. We saw it in the first best of 5 where Rogue were like, okay, we're just going to copy it because these are some good decisions. And with that, I felt like Fnatic found that confidence again. We know how outspoken Hylissang and Whip are about the trust. And it felt like when the team trusts both Hylissang and Whippo, the team just seems to flow better together. And I think that's so important for Fnatic's individuals.
Yeah, Fnatic have also been, it feels like this whole split trying to find the identity that works for them. And now it's self-made on these carry-oriented picks that he's stepping up so hugely on that Fnatic trust him completely to carry with.
Exactly. We see it there again, how happy they were to do it himself. He's trying not to show it. You know, he's a bit edgy, but he was still very happy. Let's talk about this evolution. We pulled up a composition from Fnatic versus Mad in week 3. Tell me, you know, what the verdict is on that composition and how they have evolved since then.
It's interesting because this comp is like trying to force what they're playing today in a completely different meta. Because now instead of Soraka, now you have a Senna. Instead of a Graves, you have a Hecarim. Mordekai is also a standalone pick, but there's better champions like a Gangplank and Ornn that can give more into those Dragon team fights later on. It's as if they were fishing for that thing, but it didn't really work with 10.16.
Yeah, and I also think it was about learning how to play with a draft like this, because you can point to problems in this draft, but also when Fnatic played this game, they kept forcing fights super early on, and now they do that. They still do, but I do find some more tempered aggression out of them, and I feel like playing around self-made and self-made, being able to say, no, I'm just going to farm up now, I'm going to get selfish with it, it has been working much better for
And Yamato, you as a coach yourself, you can probably imagine that self-made, you know, he's always had this idea, you know, he's always been a jungler like this, but it isn't that easy to come into a team as one of the newest players at the beginning of this year and to say, actually, I think this might be the best way for us to play. I can see how that took a while for that puzzle to really come together for Fnatic.
Yeah, for sure. I think it requires a very specific attitude, because if you come from a team where you were a big fish in a small pond and then all of a sudden you're a small fish in a very big pond, you require, you know, some sense of bravado, some sense of confidence that really, you know, you can push your ideas onto your teammates in some fashion. And knowing the context of all of these players and him taking such a big role in the team in his first year in Fnatic is very impressive.
It's a really big step, and this is the guy that played Infinity Edge Rek'Sai with SK. He also played the Evelynn back then with SK as well, so he's always been this type of a player, and now to see Fnatic put the faith in him to do that on this team is massive.
Definitely so, and he's up versus another Polish jungler. As said, we had 3 of them in this finals weekend. Jankos on the side of G2, who's always been solid. How do we feel about him in front of these, or ahead of rather, these finals specifically, and what we've seen from him?
It's been a really weird journey for Yanks, because I feel like Summer Split, it has not been his half of the year. You know, he has not been performing up to expectations. And even last week against Fnatic was trying to play the more scaling-oriented pick. Pulled out the Lilia very quickly, put that one away. But yesterday, he had dusted off the Hecarim and whatnot. And I feel like he's not terrible at these champions. He is good at these champions, but it's still not at the level that I saw of an inspired Hecarim yesterday or self-made on all these types of picks.
I feel like what it comes down to as well, just as much as it is the jungle player, it's also how the team plays. G2 tend to take a lot of risks in lane phase that sometimes need to be repaired. We saw in a Graves game where Graves took 3 camps, had to go cover top and gain absolutely nothing from it. And doing such things with farming junglers, you just can't. While Fnatic tend to play in a way where they are very resilient, and also they play on their own, which is a very strong skill to have in itself. I'm looking forward to the series because I'm hoping that G2 recognize that if we talk in the context of scaling junglers, there's not that many. There's maybe Lilia, and there's maybe, you know, Nidalee, no one really plays. Graves is also a bit iffy, but there's Evelynn and Hecarim. If these are out, Jankos is back.
Yeah, and we know G2 are very quick to adapt as a team as well. So coming into playoffs, they had to very quickly try to spin some things around, but every single day, they're only going to come out with something better.
That they will, and I think in the context of what we've seen from G2, yes, they fell down to the lower bracket, but we've definitely seen that as games went on, individually, these players have become crisper, you know? And we can talk about a lot of the solo laners. We want to talk about Cabs, I know, but I want to talk about Wunder a little bit as well, because it's just been so impressive. Even yesterday, you know, the single plays he made that saved the series.
It was the biggest player gap we've seen all playoffs long. I'm not confident to say whole season because I don't know. There might be some game that was a complete disaster for someone. I don't know. But complete annihilation, and on so many different champions. You know, he plays the Ornn, he plays the Shen, he can play the Gangplank on an incredible level 2. He can pick the Nico, he can bring an Akali. You want some Pyke? You want some Pyke?
Sure.
Give me the Pyke.
I got some Pyke right here.
Hook it up, thank you.
Oh, this is my Pyke. This is the Pyke you have at home. Not so good. Good luck.
Mom, I won't Pyke at home. Oh.
Honestly, Wunder has just been, he's been so incredible, and I love to see it too. You look at the game yesterday, game 5, right? When it came down to the wire against Rogue, the performance he put on against Finn was just disgusting. His bot lane completely running it down, hard feeding, but he drew so much attention into the top lane that they had the room to come back into the game, and I believe he is the reason why G2 won that game 5.
All right, another reason why G2 has been winning a lot in playoffs has been Caps, and I want to, you know, talk about Caps and a player that he is in a different perspective, because we've talked about the fact that he's good, that he was carrying G2 for a while, that he is the MVP, but now I want to talk about when a Caps gets to play with a team where everyone is performing. What are we looking at then?
Oof. Have you seen 2019 G2?
I did.
That's good.
Been looking for it.
I think just the key thing is just in comparison, like we saw the first best of 5 between G2 and Fnatic. They were winning 2v2 mid, and they were doing a lot of roams into mid, but there was no transition. That transition needs to happen in turn. Like I want to see a game where they contest mid, and then they use that mid prior to dive bot, dive top, and they just dominate the game. Similar to that Zoe performance yesterday, because that Zoe, you can call it a mid laner, but that was a everything laner.
Yeah, I mean, when you give Caps champions that can create plays by themselves, right? The Zoe, the LeBlanc, you have mobility, you have CC, and you have damage. You get the combination of those 3 things, and he can solo carry games. And it goes further than that, too, because all of a sudden there's much more of an incentive for a Jankos to visit mid lane, for a Mickey to visit mid lane, and you give Caps just an inch, and he will take a mile, because he's the type of player that doesn't just destroy you in lane, he takes over the entire map and transitions his leads into the rest of his team.
Caps, the absolute carry for G2, self-made, the absolute carry on the side of Fnatic. How will they match up? Because it's not like it's a pound for pound, a mid laner versus a mid laner, or a jungler versus jungler. It's very interesting how it's this guy that's going to have to disrupt G2's entire plan.
If Caps is the selfless player that takes his lead and gives that to the rest of his team, self-made takes it all for himself. I cannot handle that picture. But he's a selfish player, but in the best of ways, because he is the ultimate min-maxer. It's all about efficiency for him. He knows if he's going to gank, he will get a kill out of that gank. If Bwipo's up in top lane and his lane gets frozen against him and he's going to die if he goes up to CS, well, we see Bwipo die because Selfmade will not come to bail him out. Selfmade is playing to get as big of a lead as possible and then carry the game.
You want me to soak a wave? Oh, okay, then I'll come.
Come for your CS,
then I'll swing by.
He's like it seems like he's a jungler you really wouldn't want in your own games, but you definitely
if you like winning, you like Selfmade in your game.
You play like Selfmade?
I play a little bit like Selfmade, just not quite as good, but I farm a lot.
Good, yeah. And is it going to be enough to repeat my question, to disrupt what G2 can bring today?
I think the key thing is just G2, even in game 5 against Fnatic, I felt like they had the better draft. Rogue had something very special with that. You know, they showed some incredible depth when it came to champion pool. A lot of AD carries were banned. All of a sudden, Draven showed up. Like, what are the next levels? How deep can Fnatic go in terms of preparation? Because if G2 can throw some bans self-made's way, all of a sudden you have a classic jungle game, and this is where Jankos shines, and this is something that's been practicing the entire time. If Fnatic have used this week to prepare some spice, then maybe, you know, maybe they can continue with this trend of snowballing with self-made.
We'll see. As Frosk says, in this matchup, you could throw a rock anywhere and you'd hit a fantastic matchup. We haven't even talked about the bot lane yet. And for Fnatic, we definitely have to keep an eye on it. And Hylissang is there holding down the fort. And I wanted to take some time to talk about Hyli. I feel like he flies under the radar a lot when we talk about these top players, even in the context of kind of players in Europe who have performed tremendously well and are kind of the cornerstones of our EU and LEC history, like a Caps, like a Sjokz, like a Perkz, like a Reckless. Hyli has also been there since the beginning. In the first season he ever played, he made it to the final with UOL versus Fnatic, and it's weird. We keep forgetting about him, but he's such a phenomenal player.
Yeah, for sure. It's so interesting, you know, I am completely aboard Hylissang's playstyle and so forth. It's always so interesting to face him because I have to tell my support, don't trust him. You have to always think you need to call him on his bullshit because it doesn't work. You know, he's very, very different when it comes to, you know, the support pool that we have all over the world.
And that's why he's actually dubbed the Professor. It started in the LCK with the fans. They called him the Professor, and it's really a term of endearment. They have a lot of respect for the way Hyli plays. I also love this edit of him. This is exactly
it's a great picture. I love it.
Right support?
Right, hey, why not? Maybe it's foretelling the future here. But it is about respect for the way he looks at the game in a different way, and he always has those new ideas.
He's the great inventor, right? You know,
yes.
He played the split push Pyke first, he then played the split push Trundle. He always has a different idea, not just of those individual picks, but how to actually play champions a completely different way to other people.
Yeah, always when, you know, I've practiced against Hylissang so many times, he always finds ways to reinvent matchups. You know, for some people, they look at Tahm as a defensive pick that wants to poke and queue, but what he did in scrims, and that reinvented the whole matchup, was as Tahm he picked Glacial Augment, Hex Flash, level 1 just ganks. He just ganks his own lane, and it's like, what is going on? And Tahm has so much damage. In melee form, he chases after you, uses flash, you trade flash, but then he's just sitting in that bush and hex flashing on you over and over.
Yeah,
and now everyone does it. Now everyone does it.
Yeah, it's sort of everyone will lead the example he follows, and I think this can be such a benefit to Fnatic, his understanding of the 2v2 lane, along with Reckless, who's been performing at such a high level so consistently throughout this entire split, and how they understand controlling the minion waves. When you face down G2's bot lane, it has been a very different story. It's been all over the place. It's been wildly inconsistent. And that's where I feel like almost the biggest strength lies for Fnatic in this series is the duo in the bot lane of Hylissang and Reckless.
Yeah, and if you look at Reckless's laning stats, they are also tremendous. And they're going to be a great asset for Fnatic in this best of 5, Yamato.
I think there's no question that Reckless is the best AD carry in Europe. I think without a doubt. And that in itself, that he's been there for so long, it's absolutely crazy. And I think it continues coming into this matchup. I was hoping that G2 would show us something fresh against Rogue, but it continued down the same trend with the same champions. And I feel like right now in the current meta, Fnatic just has G2's bot lane number. We will see how much that matters.
Is it just something that isn't working now for G2 Esports? Is this a liability going into this best of 5?
I mean, it's hard because you saw them yesterday against Hansama and Vander, who fantastic in the bot lane, don't get me wrong, but G2 lost both sides of those AD carry matchups, right? And that has been a problem for them, dying in the 2 versus 2. Well, we've seen in the past, Fnatic will go for the Jhin plus Pyke in the bot lane with the sole purpose of killing you in the bottom lane. And if you can't lock it down, if you can't hold your own down bot side, well then the rest of the map's going to fall apart.
Well, let's hear from the man himself, Hyli. He's sitting down with Laure.
Thank you very much, guys. Laure here, joined by Hyli ahead of his big game finals today against G2. Thank you very much, Hyli, for joining me.
Thank you.
So in Vedius, they were talking about the unique playstyle and champions you bring to the LEC, and I want to know what makes you different compared to the other players in the LEC when it comes to the way you approach the game.
I'm not sure what makes me different, because it's from my point of view, but I feel like I'm more open to take fights and not afraid to take opportunities.
Yeah.
From my perspective, I feel like I'm not very hesitant. I like to go for opportunities that I think they're good and not really think twice. And yeah, I mean, I think maybe that's what makes me different. I'm not sure really.
Yeah.
It's hard to say from my point of view.
Well, I mean, first, you mentioned this, but we're going to talk about this a bit later because that echoes something Yamato mentioned also. But in the way you bring different champions, like, do you do some side research on the game? Because there's the Professor Hyli meme, you know. So when you come up with, like, unique champions, how do you think about them backstage? How do you know that this specific picks, even though we don't know it, is going to be good in-game?
I mean, I wouldn't say I know it. I just like to play the comfort zone. I like to play champions that I know that I can play well, and doesn't really matter if it's good in the game or it's in the meta or anything. I just if I feel like something is strong in my head, I'll just go for it, even though like people don't really like it or people think it's weird. And yeah, I think that's the idea behind the picks usually.
All right, trusting your instinct, which echoes something you were saying a bit earlier about the fact that you're not afraid to seize opportunities in game and go for these flashy plays that nobody could expect. And Yamato was also mentioning something and wanted to know, what is the process in your head when you want to risk something on the map that the opponents can't expect, but that's also going to be risky? Like, what goes through your head? Is it like impulsive? Is it something you double think? Tell me about it.
I usually go for like instinct a lot, yeah, like feeling in the game. I really don't try not to think about like the outcome too much. If it's like bad, I try to think of the outcome, if like what will happen if it works and how to make it work and what they have. And yeah, people were on the map rather than what if this play fails, like what is happening. Like this is not in my head, but the good things usually.
Yeah, it's so hard because you're not allowed to doubt in these situations. But anyway, back to the match today, G2. These are players that you actually know a lot. I mean, you've played them a billion times, and this is what makes this matchup even more interesting, I think, because how can you still be creative and find new ways to take down G2 when you know the opponents by heart?
I don't know how. I mean, honestly, I feel like whenever we play G2, it's like there's a lot of mini games and a lot of small fights that happens and skirmishes, and both teams always want to be on top of each other and like prove like a point to the opponent, and it always feels nice to play against them. And I'm happy they're on final and hope we can manage to get on top of them once again.
Hopefully, and I mean, we all hope for a great series today, you versus G2. Thank you very much, Hyli, for the interview.
Thank you.
And good luck against them today. And back to you, Sjokz.
Thank you very much, Laure. Lovely to hear from Hyli. So calm, cool, and collected, just like a professor should be. He's not going to let us know what his plans are. That would be absolutely ludicrous. We are getting so close to this best of 5 and to the summer finals, G2 versus Fnatic. So we want to hear from you. As always, my analysts, there's just a little bit of wishy-washy. You guys have the answer. Who will win the summer title? Spam FNC or G2 in chat. Just kidding, of course. We're getting closer. Let's get down into the nitty-gritty, and I want to jump on something that Hyli said there and that Laure was asking about. How can you keep innovating if you know these guys inside and out and you've played them so often? And who is more likely to find the solutions today?
See, I think it's less about innovating and finding some way to break the opponent's playstyles. I think it's about making yourself the least predictable as possible, because when you know these players, the 5 other people you're facing down the Rift so well, it's about knowing, like, you know their moves, so they know your moves, so make sure they don't know your moves. You gotta confuse them, you gotta throw it back on them and make sure that you're not predictable.
Oh, he's got an evil smile.
I was liking what I was hearing, because I agree. Yeah. It's like a goddamn poker game, and I think that's always G2 versus Fnatic. They're always, it's so quick, because it's always the next step, the next step, the next step. The way the players describe it as well, it's stressful, it's tiring. Game 5 last week, they were tired and exhausted because they really push each other to the limit.
50-50 so far. Well, 48-52. Wow. We're going to call it even 1,000 votes so far. Tell me then, when you go into this first draft, there is always that, are we going to try and break them, as you say, from the first one? Are we going to show a certain thing and hope that it sticks? Or are we just both going to play our games? Who is more likely to go for the crazy things off game 1? And who is more likely to take it slow?
I feel like G2 are the team that would go crazy, that would have something. This is a team that always loves to have something they're hiding, something they don't bring out until the big games, until Worlds, until the finals. And that's what I'm like, last summer, we saw the Kog'Maw in the bot lane, the Enchanter Sports. What is it going to be today that completely confuses us?
What did Caps dream about during this night?
Fever dream? Exactly. We'll see what happens indeed. Now, it's time to get into predictions slowly, and you have a lot of time for it, so really sell it to me, Ender and Yamato.
Oh, this one's tough. You want to start it off?
I can go. So I'm looking at the series from yesterday, and there's 3 key things. First, bot lane strength. Rogue showed bottling strength means so much, and I think that's going to carry on into this best of 5. I think Reckless and Hylissang are better than Perkz and Mickey right now. Mid lane, I don't think Larssen can perform at the same level. I mean, Nemesis can't perform at the same level as Larssen. I kind of mixed it up there. Because Larssen really put Caps to the test, and that was like an even mid lane matchup. Coming into this one, I think Caps is better and stronger than Nemesis. Finally, I think Rogue showed a lot of champion pool depth that is so important to make sure that G2 don't really outdraft you. Today, the question is, have Fnatic prepared something different in this week of practice? Have they brought something new? Because otherwise, G2 are going to find the right bans and then suffocate them.
And can you contain Caps? Because the man will take over the entire map. I think everyone will look back to last week's series and they'll say, G2, they should have won that 3-1, right? They threw it inside the enemy base. Fnatic came back, that pushed them to game 5. You can't do that, though, because the series was just that close. That was one game that G2 threw. It cost them that series for sure. But we know these two teams are very evenly matched. So at the end of the day, it comes down to, do I believe that Jankos will come up clutch? Because yes, I think the bot lane for Fnatic is going to have the upper hand, but I think Jankos playing around mid and controlling the mid lane, making sure Caps can have his way, that is the key thing for Fnatic, or for G2 rather, and I believe that they can do it.
Okay, I'm not sure I caught your prediction.
G2.
Oh, okay.
3-0.
Yeah, it's still 50-50. 3-0? Wait,
Fair.
What? Just dropped the bomb
Hold
there.
the phone?
Oh, trust me.
All right. Can you elaborate, or is you just
I've elaborated. I can say it again. I think
okay.
just Caps against Nemesis. I believe in Caps. I think historically also Wunder against Whippo. I think he's going to bring the spice. And finally, I think just the draft depth is better on G2's end. So I'm predicting the 3-0.
Wow. I don't know if we're watching the same games, because G2 at their peak, they look so good. Do not get me wrong, but I do not feel like we have been seeing peak G2. Yesterday in their series last week against Fnatic, I think these games are going to get scrappy, and it's going to be much closer than a 3-0.
I'd like to remind everyone that the route that G2 took to the last finals looked scrappy. They almost dropped games against Origin. Come on. And then they 3-0 smacked Fnatic around, and I'm thinking the same is going to happen today.
Look, G2 have never lost a round 2 best of 5. They've always gone in the finals. They've never had to play the semifinals. They're looking weaker than they have in the past, and I still am voting for G2, but I want to make it very clear that this is dead even. And honestly, before we got to right now, I didn't know what I was going to vote. I'm still thinking about it. I'm not fully confident. That's how close this one is going to be. It is going to be a nail biter, and we're seeing all 5 today.
Oh, we're seeing all 5 today. You got me so hyped. If we don't get it, I'm going to be so disappointed. I do not want it to be a 3-0. I do not want it to be a 3-1. I want it to be a 3-2. We deserve it. The fans deserve it. And Fnatic and G2, they owe it to themselves to put the best version of themselves forward today, because you don't get many chances like this to absolutely destroy your biggest rival in history. Ladies and gentlemen, the wait is finally over, and it is time for the LEC Summer Final. What a day for League of Legends.
I mean, it's a stack day.
We are EU!
I think definitely Fnatic has been playing very well. I think we are also playing pretty good. I am not sure if this is the peak. In my opinion, I do play with like the best players I could play with, like the best players in the world.
Continues to retreat. Whoa! But that is fantastic from Caps!
I mean, he's just the best player in Europe.
I think that to win against Fnatic, we probably just have to play and draft better.
It's a casual 1v3.
This is insane. Like, are you kidding?
I still think we have what it takes to be the champion. Us facing each other is a banger.
I think 3 got caught by the Bomb Blossom, and it is just obliteration from G2. G2 eliminate Rogue and advance to the final to face Fnatic.
G2 are putting on one hell of a show. I mean, Reckless has been a bit of an unsung hero.
But Fnatic are winning it. Caps forced to flash over the wall. The Sand Soldiers, the Emperor's Divine by time. Reckless finds the shot.
I feel very relieved to finally have taken down G2. It's still gonna take more for us to prove that we are top dogs in Europe. Selfmade's consistency was crazy good.
They have so many players that just refuse to lose.
Starting to come together. Selfmade finds the kill. He goes golden for a few seconds, and the death sentence will not find his target. Core the Forge God will knock up Nemesis into the air, and Caps goes down.
I want it to be us at the top again, and I think a win on Sunday would basically cement that.
I'm one shot.
First time 2018, Fnatic take down G2.
My only motivation is competition and victories.
After G2 through Game 3, Fnatic have the mental fortitude to dig back and win Game 5.
A lot of the Fnatic players really stepped it up.
Awesome that we do have our two pillars in G2 and Fnatic.
If we can get 2 5-game Fnatic versus G2 series, oh, that is a European dream.
Are you ready for the LEC Summer Split Finals?
Hi there, I'm Drakos, caster for the LEC. We here at the League of Legends European Championship are working tirelessly to bring you the best show possible, no matter the circumstances. Now, a lot of people want to know how we come up with such good ideas for content every single time. And well, our methods might be top secret, but I can tell you that we are nothing if not diligent and meticulous. Always original, every single time. Because in times like these, you need fresh content. Let's be honest, the third run through your Netflix catalog, well, it's not looking super hot.
Yo, Drakos, I have a brand new script for playoffs,
Yes.
right? Silver Scrapes, 5 games super close, like back to back. And in the end, the best part, a new champion. No G2 Fnatic.
No G2 Fnatic. Oh God, it's crazy ideas like that that help keep the LEC moving forward. And hey, even if not every team can be a winner, every team has a role to fill here at the LEC. Take that one for me. Thanks, Fidget. And LEC, it's not just cold opens, it's not just Medi-Vedi intros, hell, it's not even just rap battles. LEC isn't just a Euphoria podcast or a weekly broadcast, it's not just casters and pro players. It takes a whole crew behind the scenes to bring this product to life. And while not every job is super flashy, every piece of the puzzle is critical.
Doesn't it look infected?
Look, I said I can't answer these questions. Well, mostly. From the team that makes our office such a wonderful place to work, to the minds behind our fantastic format, to the unreal tenacity of our live operations team, who managed to fix our remote broadcast time after time, even when Caster's internet just keeps dying over and over again. Honestly, the list is so long, there are so many people to thank, but one thing you can be certain of is that everyone behind the scenes is putting their heart and soul into the product that they're making. Sometimes, a little bit too much. All right, driver, to the studio, please. And as much as every single person behind the scenes is important, none of this would be possible without you. I know it sounds corny, but we mean it. You at home who sit and watch your favorite teams every week, rain or shine, whether they're going on massive winning streaks or losing horribly. You who grind solo queue in hopes of one day being a pro player, who help build our server from the bottom up. And last but not least, you. Those who spam Heck W and Weird Champ in Twitch chat, we couldn't do it without you either. Because you've helped us shatter viewership records and redefine what esports content looks like. Thank you. Whew. The LEC has grown immensely. And despite everything that 2020 has thrown at us, it's been a fantastic year for European League of Legends. No matter what team you rooted for, this was probably one of the best seasons ever, because no team was so far up the ladder that they couldn't be knocked down a peg. Hey, how's it going?
You're good.
Thanks. This season, every game counted. Like really, every game mattered. From the rise of Mad Lions and Rogue to the Schalke Miracle run and Fnatic and G2 being, well, Fnatic and G2. It was good stuff, even if not every dream came true. Now here we are, getting closer and closer to Worlds, Europe on the rise, and our whole region is feeling good.
Can you come in here for a second?
Oh, this is good stuff.
I didn't mean to break the table, Kevin. I just got excited.
I'm excited for words. That doesn't mean I break the green screen.
Just please let me cast the finals.
Absolutely
please.
not.
Kevin! Kevin!
4 teams in Europe going to Worlds, 1 final match, and only 1 person can come out on top. And with EU production behind it, there's no way it's not a banger. Hopefully. So this is it. 1 final best of 5 to decide it all. So no matter where you come from, no matter what you've been through, this best of 5 series is what matters today. It doesn't matter if your team is playing in a few minutes or got eliminated a few weeks ago. It's time to pick a side or sit back and revel in the chaos. So grab a few friends, get together on Discord, or make a few new friends on ours. Because at the end of the day, this is a spectacle to be enjoyed together. And in the final moments of the LEC 2020, you don't want to miss it.
Thank you, Kevin. And get well, Drakos. I agree. Why would you miss this final? These are the two most dominant organizations in European history, and they might just be two of the best teams in the world. They find themselves once again in a finals against one another after the most competitive summer season we have ever had. G2 and Fnatic only know dominance and success, and the weight of their history is not lost on me. Fnatic are the Season 1 World Champions, 2018 World Finalists, and the 7-time European Champions. G2 have won MSI, made a World Final, also have 7 European titles, and today they face off for number 8. But it feels different. It feels like Fnatic could win. In the era of G2 dominance, Fnatic took them down. Can you feel the pressure? Can you feel the fear? Europe, can you feel it?
I feel it in my head, my shoulders, knees and toes, my bones, your music gets me through the highs and lows. My head, shoulders, knees and toes, my bones, you're keeping me from feeling all alone. I've been praying to 1,000 different stars, to 1,000 different arms, till I found you. I've been chasing by 1,000 different hearts, to 1,000 million hours, now I found you. My life will never be the same again. I got you running through my veins. I feel it in my head, my shoulders, knees and toes, my bones, your music gets me through the highs and lows. My head, my shoulders, knees and toes, my bones, you keeping me from feeling all alone. Let me breathe you, take you down into my lungs, while we dance into the sun. Now that I found you, you're a part of me. Now I can't let you go. You're the heartbeat of my soul. Now that I found you, my life will never be the same again. I got you running through my veins. I feel it in my head, my shoulders, knees and toes, my bones, your music gets me through the highs and lows. My head, my shoulders, knees and toes, my bones, you keeping me from feeling all alone. My shoulders, knees and toes, my bones, your music gets me through the highs and lows. My head, my shoulders, knees and toes, my bones, you keeping me from feeling all alone.
Thank you very much, LEC. We are off and back. Good luck to everybody and see you soon. Bye-bye.
The summer final is just moments away, and Fnatic have proven they can take down G2. They are one step closer to etching their name on this trophy for the first time. Nemesis and Selfmade led Reckless and Fnatic to their first BO5 win against G2 since 2018. G2 are here to defend their title and stop Fnatic in their tracks. Wonder in the top lane. Yankos in the jungle. Your summer MVP in the mid lane, Caps. Perks in the bot lane. Mickey in support. their opponents, Fnatic, proving they can best G2. The question is, can they finish the run? Whippo in the top lane. Self-made in the jungle. Nemesis in the mid lane. Reckless in the bot lane. And Hylissang supports. The greatest rivalry in League of Legends is Fnatic versus G2, and the next chapter starts right now. Let me introduce your finals tricast: Medic, Froskuren, and Vedius.